Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Bree. Today we're going to be talking about all the books I've read in the month of November. I have a bit of a stack here. I am missing one book because I have a reading vlog. It's not coming out until December, so I'm going to just wrap it up in my December wrap up. I've read a total of 10 books, so I'm excited to talk to you about them because I had some winners and some not winners, but it felt like a good reading month, so that's what matters. Let me just start with whatever I want, I guess. I have 3 books that I'm just going to talk to you about in one, and that is these books. The Twisted Dead, The Hollow Dead, and The Ravenous Dead. I believe this is the second one. I read the first one in October by Darcy Coates. This is the Gravekeeper series. The 5th one is coming out in, I think, February or March of 2025. So I'm very excited to get to it. This is a horror. I think they're considered cozy horror, but it's more, to me, like a paranormal mystery series. It's following a woman who can see the dead, and she's running from something, but she has amnesia, so she doesn't remember anything from her past. So in these books, we slowly unravel what happened in her past, and then also we get like little mysteries with different ghosts in the graveyard or different ghosts that she encounters. And this is one of those series where I started it and I just had a fun time with the first one, but didn't think it was going to be a series I really loved. And then after reading these 4, it's just like the perfect mix of cozy to me, but with stakes. So it was in the time of the year where I just wanted something spooky, and it gave me that spooky vibe without feeling like everything wasn't going to be okay. There is like trigger warnings in here, and we deal with some harder things. Everyone's going through different life things. And obviously we have Kira, who's having amnesia, so she has some traumatic past, but the found family in this just is so fun, and we've got a group of quirky characters, which I always really like. So I don't really have anything individual to say about each one, except for that maybe I think the last one was my favorite because we got like a lot of answers to things we've been wanting answers to, and I found it really satisfying to figure out what was going on. And I think it's really fun the direction it's going. It's gonna be a little too ridiculous, I think, for some people, but for me, I'm having a great time. So that's the Gravekeeper series. I think overall the series is probably like a 4-star series for me. I think maybe one of them I gave 3 stars, but on the whole, they all feel like a 4-star series. Like if I look at it, it feels like a 4-star series, so I can't really differentiate them anymore. So that's the Gravekeeper series. Very happy I got to those. They were just kind of like an impulse read for me, and very happy I did. Also, sorry if I sound weird. I'm getting over a sickness, and it really took me out, so I still feel it like in my voice a little bit. Wow, it was demonstrating for you. But anyway, I guess next I'll just talk about this little novella I read called The Test by Sylvain Neuvel. This is a novella set in the UK where we're following a man who is going to take his test to become a resident of the UK. And he's very nervous, and he just starts his test, and then things devolve from there. And this is in the UK, but like I think it's very reminiscent of even the US's like policies towards immigration and how we say to the world that we are very accepting and we like immigration, but that at the same time we really don't, and we try to keep people out and try to make it difficult for them. And so I think this is a lot of commentary on that, but also it gets weird, and it gets into like this interesting way of dealing with this test. I thought was so interesting. I did not know what was going to happen, and I think the best way to read it is to just start it. It's only like 100 pages, so really saying like what's going on would give so much away, and I think just like picking it up and giving it a read is the best way to do it, not really knowing anything. And it's a very fast read. It's a lot of dialogue, and it's very like chop chop. As soon as you start the book, it just keeps going. It's a very intense pace, and I really liked it. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. I think that sounds right. 4.5. I really love it. I think it was really well done and had more commentary. I think what would have made it for a 5 for me is if we just got like a little bit more to like pick at. I just wish it wasn't quite so short. Okay, then I guess we have a bit of a disappointment. So I read The Improvisers by Nicole Glover. This is the 3rd book in a series. So it's called Murder and Magic. I read The Conductors and The Undertakers, they're back on there, last year, and I really loved them. I think I gave both of them 5 stars. I definitely gave the first one 5 stars. I think the second one as well. And this is doing a time jump. So while it's kind of in the same series, you're time jumping to 1920-ish or 1930s, if I remember correctly, and we're following descendants of the original couple. I don't really feel like you have to read the first book to read this, but I do think you lose out on some of like the magic system and some of the backstory of characters that are in it. So you do see some characters from the first story, but I don't feel like what happens in those books are given away necessarily, so you could start here. But I think my critique is similar to a lot of others, is that this was very, very magic heavy, and I thought it was interesting, and I really thought the way magic worked in the first book was so interesting, and this was like trying to bring the technology into the magic to show how the magic would have advanced, and I liked that about it, but at the same time it felt too packed with magic. It felt like every page or two we were doing some new magic thing, and the mystery itself was interesting, but I think it was just so packed with like the magic and how she just wanted to like use magic at every turn that it felt disjointed to me, and it felt like, I don't know, it lost some of that spark. What I loved about the other two was the characters and the way the characters were developed and took time and the relationships with everyone, and I feel like this lacked in here. We had so many family members and they were hard to keep straight of who was who, and I wish just we had spent time getting to know the family dynamics more. Like I wish we focused on that more than just like this adventure, fast-paced like mystery. It just felt, I don't know, different than the first one. So I'm gonna go with the 3. I enjoyed it, and I think I would continue on, but it's just a little disappointing because I love those first 2 so much. And it's hard because they are doing a time jump. So I feel like to me that's always a difficult thing, is to jump forward so much in time and follow new characters when you have established characters in a series. And that doesn't always work for me, and I don't really feel like it worked for me here. Then I read at the beginning of the month, this was actually I think the first book I read this month, and that's The 13th Child by Erin A. Craig. This was kindly sent to me by my friend Karen at Roving Reader, and it's signed by the author, and I'm so excited. And I have pretty little artworks here. And this one I enjoyed. I think I'm going with a 3.5. It wasn't quite the House of Hollow levels for me. I think that this one is one of those books that it just was a little long. So it's a fantasy. I don't know if you would consider it horror. I think it's just a darker fantasy kind of story. And we're following a young girl, it's a YA, of this young girl who is the 13th child, and she knows from a very young age that her parents are just kind of waiting for her to get taken back by the god of death. He has like bestowed a gift on her and says that one day he's going to take her away. So her parents are very neglectful of her. They have a lot of kids as well, but she's just kind of the cast-off child. She's the child who has to do all these chores, and I think this is a retelling of something, but I've never read the original story, but I do think it's a retelling of a story that involves the 13th child. But anyway, so then one day the god of death takes her away, and we follow her as she gets these magical abilities, and she has to kind of heal people or take their lives. She basically can heal people, but then if it's time for them to pass, she has to aid in their passing, so she has to kill people. Though it's much more like euthanasia or something like that. Really? Was that crazy? Yeah, that was a little crazy, wasn't it? You didn't expect it to go that way, huh? So we're following her, and then she meets this prince, and they kind of have a slowish romance, and it's about her like deciding if she wants to follow the path that death has laid out for her. And I think my biggest critique is just it's a little long. It was packed with some scenes that I think didn't necessarily need to be there, and I do think it's a character focused story, and so some of those scenes were to like help build the characters and their relationships. But I think in the end, it didn't quite have that same impact that I think that was intended. Like, I think the ending and the impact of what's being talked about and things like that, I appreciated, but I think because it was so long, it just took a little bit of time to get there that I didn't quite appreciate the ending as much as I wanted to. So it's one of those books where I don't feel that I have a lot to say about it, you know? I read it, I enjoyed it, I will keep it on my shelves. I gave it a 3.5, but I don't think it's something that really has hit me like some other stories, especially like her other story, House of Hollow. I do want to read the kind of sequel or companion to that. I just haven't got to it, but I really like Erin A. Craig's writing style. I think that it's got a very dark, whimsical feel, and that is definitely throughout here as well. So, and it gives a little bit of a historical feeling by the way that they dress and talk and stuff without actually being historical. So if you like that, I'd recommend it as well. I think we're just gonna jump into the controversial one. So I read Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson. I did not realize how many people were not giving this high ratings. I think in my vlog I gave it 4 stars, and it's been a month about since I read it. So I do think after sitting with it for a little bit, it's more of a 3.5. But that being said, this is a dark academia story, kind of horror, kind of fantasy. To me, it leans more fantasy, but there are horror elements in it. And we're following a girl who is taken, well, not taken, she's given an opportunity to go to this university that's a very secret, and she gets to learn magic of persuasion, and things devolve from there. And I just think that this could have been 2 books. It could have been built out longer to explain more things. I think I'm not as upset about it as like other people, because I think I just was kind of one of those reads where I was along for the ride, and her writing is just very compulsively readable. It's dark academia, so there's a lot of like relationships that are messy and unhealthy and not something that the real world would condone. I don't know about that, but I think most of us know that they are not okay. And I don't know if I really love like how things ended up with some of those things, but I think that the story overall was just kind of fun, and I wanted to know more about the magic, and I don't think it bothered me that things weren't always explained. I think that it was just one of those things where, I don't know, I had a good time. So just know that I think that not everyone will love it. I think that if you look at reviews on the whole, I think people are a little disappointed by it, and I am disappointed by it because I loved House of Hunger so much, but I don't know, I had a good time. So 3.5 to 4 stars for me. There's definitely problems with it, but I liked it. So we're gonna end it on a high note. I have 2 books. One is The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong, and this is a fantasy, cozy fantasy about a what are they called? Fortune teller, and she can tell small fortunes, just like little things. So nothing that really is going to impact a ton, but it does have impact. So, you know, you're going to find your sheep, I don't know, on a hill. That's like the worst that I could come up with. Okay, what's a better one? You're going to have an adventure. I don't know. And that will help them like propel them. So they do help people, and she kind of goes from town to town. She's a loner. So she encounters 2 men, and they are looking for one of the men's daughter who has been missing and believes she was taken by bandits, and so they're trying to find her. And then they kind of team up with her and go around, and we encounter other companions along the way. There is a little cat companion, which the cat, love it. Love its interactions with one of the guys. It's hilarious to me. Oh, I still have a bookmark in here. I don't know why, because I finished this. But it's just a cozy story. I think if you liked Legends and Lattes and you wanted a little more to like adventure with, this is much more adventure-y. It is still slow. Like, it's definitely cozy fantasy, so it's not a high stakes kind of thing. And while it may seem like high stakes because the daughter is missing, at no point did I feel like scared. I think it's just a very warm hug. If you like found family, this I think does it really well. We kind of explore everything that each person's going through and why they are the way they are, and I just really loved it. It was super sweet. I think I'm gonna go with a 4.5 on it. I don't know why, but it just doesn't give fully 5-star vibes, but I would highly recommend it if you're looking for something in the vein of Legends and Lattes or another cozy fantasy. I think this one is so good and so cute, and it has a lot of great messaging, and we deal with magic and stuff in a really cool way. I know I don't have a ton to say about it. I feel like I'm losing words right now, but I really loved it. And then for my 5-star of the month, it's Elementary by Elise Bryant. This is a cozy mystery, which I just learned. I think there's going to be another one, so I'm very excited. We are following a mom. Well, actually, did I learn that? Or was that a different book? I don't know. Anyway, we are following a mom who is a single mom, and she lives with her dad, and she's doing a lot. She has to take her daughter, you know, to school and all this stuff. And while she's there one day, she gets tracked down by the head of the PTA. This mom decides that she's going to be part of the DEA committee, which is like diversity, inclusion, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. That's it. And she decides to make her like the head of it, and of course she's like, oh, I'm the only Black woman around, and of course you make me the head of this committee. And then when she is there one night, she sees something suspicious with the head lady, and she's carrying something out, and then the next day the principal is missing, the new principal. And it just is one of those fun, ridiculous mysteries. I think if you liked Finley Donovan, you could like this. And I think that for some people who had like frustrations with Finley Donovan, especially like surrounding her kids, I think that this shows a mom who's just struggling and has a lot of things that she has to work through, and gives a lot of like background. It's much more dealing with her child, and in a way that you can just see this mom is like trying, versus like Finley, I feel like her kids are kind of background, and I know that gave some people stress. I think that this deals with children in a way that might be more satisfying or less chaotic than Finley felt. I won't say there's no like stress points in here, but it is a cozy, so at the end of the day you do know like everything will be fine. And yeah, I really enjoyed the mystery of it. I think that there's just some fun things that happen in here, and I won't say it's like the most surprising mystery of all time, but it's so fun. And I think that people who like Finley Donovan or like those kind of fun mysteries could really like this. And if you like cozy, I also think you could really like this. So that's It's Elementary. It came out this year and loved it. 5 stars. So there you go. There are all the books I read in the month of November. I appreciate you watching. If you made it to the end, leave a like school emoji down below for my favorite book of the month, and let me know what you've been reading. I always love hearing from you, and I hope that you're having a good time, and I will see you next time.